When I was a college student in the early 70s, I spent a summer in Montana. The first 4 weeks were a geology field camp, and after that, I decided to head up to Glacier National Park, one of the most beautiful areas of the country. I was accompanied by one of the other students, a young lady whom I was interested in, and after a couple days, when it became apparent that wasn't going to work out, if you know what I mean, I headed back out of the park to the town of Kalispell, about 30 miles away, trying to figure out what to do next. When I was there, I met 2 young couples from New Jersey driving around in their VW microbus, and they invited me to go back into the park with them. Now, they looked pretty suitable. The guys had beards and flannel shirts, and the ladies looked hippie-ish, and as much hippie-ish as you could look, being from New Jersey. I decided, sure, I'll come back in. So back into the park we went for more camping and hiking. Well, it became apparent after a couple of days that wasn't going to work out either. You see, at night, the 2 ladies, for entertainment in their tent, were reading a book called Night of the Grizzlies. This was an account of a night 6 years before in Glacier National Park when 2 young women had been mauled to death by 2 grizzlies, 2 different grizzlies in 2 separate areas of the park. So the next day we'd go for a little hike around the nearby lake, and they'd be trembling in fear, waiting for a bear to pop out behind the next tree. I shook my head. Ridiculous. I mean, after all, what are the odds? I decided then it was time to do something completely different, like backpacking. There was a lake about 4 miles in from the road that looked promising, along a gentle trail. I had a backpack with me. It was made out of canvas and had an external aluminum frame. I went to the nearest camp store and filled it up with about 40 pounds of canned goods. You see, I hadn't heard about freeze-dried food. On top of that, I put my trusty Super 8 camera. You see, I fancied myself a wildlife filmmaker, and I'd taken footage already in the park. Most of these artistic pans along scenic mountain ridges or close-ups of alpine wildflowers nodding in the breeze. Then I strapped on my sleeping bag and my tent, and I headed to the trailhead. When I was there, I met a family of 4 from the Minneapolis suburbs. Mom, Dad, Sis, Junior, an all-American, wholesome-looking bunch. We decided to hike together up the trail, and on we went. It was beautiful. Towering pines, babbling brook, your typical 4-lane national park pack horse trail. We had a good time going up there, and as we got near the campground in its idyllic setting next to the lake, we were suddenly met by 2 young, rather scraggly-looking guys with wild looks in their eyes. They informed us with 1,000-yard stares that they had been attacked in the campsite the night before by a grizzly. The grizzly had chased them up a tree and made off with the bag that carried all their food. They spent the entire night in the tree, even though the bear didn't return. Fortunately, they were unharmed, but since they had no food to eat, they had to leave. The Minneapolis family of 4 and I looked at each other. Well, should we stay and set up camp? Or should we go back? All the way back down that trail with all our gear. I was thinking about my 40 pounds of canned goods and my Super 8 camera. We decided, what the heck, let's go for it. After all, the grizzly coming back to the same spot the very next day? What are the odds? You're lucky to even see a grizzly bear in Glacier National Park. The 2 guys shrugged and headed back down the trail, and we proceeded to set up our tents and roll out our sleeping bags. About a minute later, we heard a thump thump, the sound of 2 backpacks hitting the ground, followed by running footsteps. The 2 guys burst into the clearing. The bear is coming. Now, many of you may have hiked in bear country, and you know you're supposed to make a steady noise as you hike along so as not to surprise a bear. And some of you have made or heard the joke about how do you recognize grizzly bear scat It has bear bells in it. Haha. Well, it turns out that between us, the Minneapolis family of 4 and I had plenty of pots and pans to bang on. So they went ahead and proceeded to make a great noise. Well, me? This was my chance for some great footage, action footage. I grabbed my Super 8 camera and waded out into the lake waist deep, aimed my camera back towards shore, hoping to get some really good footage of this bear chasing my camping companions up a tree. Unfortunately, their noise-making proved too effective, and all I got was this grainy shot of a blurry brown mass moving in the underbrush. The bear moved off. Well, that settled once and for all the question of whether we should stay the night or not. We hurriedly packed up all our gear and proceeded back down the trail, banging on pots and shouting at the top of our lungs. I got good footage of Sis, the all-American daughter, banging loudly on a pot, screaming at the top of her voice, a savage look on her dirt-smeared face. So far from Minneapolis now. Now you might think that that would have cured me of any more desire to camp in Glacier National Park, that bear encounter, but it had the opposite effect on me. I went back to a regular campground and ate up my 40 pounds of canned corn and Dinty Moore stew, and then I got out my pack again and filled it again, this time with freeze-dried food, and I headed up into the remotest stretches of the park, alone, just me and my trusty backpack. For days I camped blissfully in remote mountain lakes, secure in the knowledge that I was not going to get attacked by a grizzly twice in one trip. After all, what are the odds? I was blissfully unaware of the fact that the 2 days after my ill-fated backpacking trip, a ranger had gone back up to that campsite on horseback. The grizzly had charged him in broad daylight. He had a rifle with him, and that was that. So, I don't expect you all to carry rifles when you go hiking in bear country, but please don't forget your bear bells. Thank you.